I'm going to give a demo to my new astrology application called Stellar Moves. But before I do that, I just want to give a little introduction to locational astrology. We start with what is astrocartography, which most people have equated with astrocartography. And basically, astrocartography is a branch of astrology that projects your personal birth chart onto a world map. This was developed by astrologer Jim Lewis in the 1970s, and it maps out energetic lines indicating how different geographical locations across the globe may influence your career, relationships, and personal growth. This is an astromap. This is the representation of the astrocartography. It's pretty technical in nature to be able to calculate, but I won't get into that there. But in my program, you're going to see these are called ACG lines, but we're going to look at other things like parens, local space, geodetic lines, asteroids. We're going to look at both natal positions as well as progressed or transited positions because these lines move over time. And we're going to see what it's like in the Inmundo method versus the zodiacal method. So that's coming up in the demo. What I've integrated into locational astrology is Astrodynes, which is kind of a new concept to be brought into locational astrology. I don't know of anyone else who's used it. But basically the background on that is Astrodynes were developed by Elbert Benjamin, also known as C.Z. Zane. And he was founded a group called the Brotherhood of Light. And in that group, there were astrologers who studied thousands of charts to come up with different values that they could assign to different types of aspects and qualities in a chart. So while astrocartography focuses on planetary power, and those lines are basically connected to the angles of the birth chart, Astrodynes focus both on power and planetary harmony or discord. Ideally, you want to live in a location that is strong and harmoniously in tune with your life goals and positive growth. So basically what you have here are two lenses and one chart. Astrocartography maps where your planets express themselves on Earth. Astrodynes measure how strong and how harmonious each planet is wherever you stand. So here's sort of a comparison here. Astrocartography answers the question, where on Earth do my planets act most strongly? What it shows is the lines on the world map, every planet's midheaven, IC, ascendant and descendant projected across every longitude and latitude. Parens mark where two planetary lines cross, zones of combined influence, best for choosing a city or region, spatial, geographic decisions, seeing at a glance which places activate which planets. And the output is that interactive map or an astro map with either Inmundo or zodiacal lines, cyclocartography timing overlay. Astrodynes answers how strong, harmonious, or discordant is each planet here versus there. What it shows is power, harmony, and discord scores for every planet in house and sign, natal and relocated. Mutual reception, exaltation, parallel aspects are all weighted into the score. And this is best for quantifying exactly how much a move helps or hurts by the decimal, ranking and comparing multiple cities side by side, seeing which is best, which is worse, and then you get scored tables showing the comparisons, the best locations, and multi-city rankings. So basically, Stellar Moves is the first application to integrate Hellenistic Time Lord techniques, astrodynes, astrocartography, multi-system forecasting, and relationship chart analysis into one complete analytical toolkit. Built by a working astrologer for astrologers and serious students, because the tools to do this properly simply did not exist. So let's go ahead and move into the demo. When you log into Stellar Moves, the first thing you're going to see is an onboarding welcome. And basically this is just going to take you through the different things that you're going to be able to do to create your first profile and then see the planetary positions on it. So we'll leave that for now. What you'll also see is if you've created some charts, you'll see these charts laid out in a parent-child type of relationship. So you can see me, I've got a bunch of charts in here. I've got my natal chart. I've got a Davison chart, which is a couples chart between my wife and I. We've got a family chart, which is my wife, myself, and my daughter. We've got a relocation chart for my wife and I, relocation chart just for me, a relocation chart for the family. And then we got different cities where we're relocating. So there's a lot that can go and be created here on the profile page. to do so, I'm going to create myself as Steve Blonder instead of Stephen Blonder. And we'll choose the date, December 11th, 1956, 10:26 a.m. And I was born in Northridge, California. It should pick that up unless there's multiple Northridges around the world, and it did. And or you can enter your coordinates manually if it's some obscure type of place. I like to use a whole sign chart as opposed to Placidus, which most people like to use, or Porphyry, which was the original house system used by the folks that invented Astrodynes. I'm going to save my profile. So there it is as Steve Blonder. And I say, okay, now I want to relocate somewhere. I'm going to hit relocate. The main natal chart information is still there. I put a relocation. Say I want to go to Paris. And it's going to look it up and say, okay, yeah, Paris, France. That sounds good. Let's move there. I'm going to save that profile. And there's Paris, France right there. Let's say I want to create a couples chart. So I'm going to go here, and instead of relocate, I'm going to hit a relationship. Let's put myself back in there, my natal chart, bring that back in there, hit a relationship, and I can choose which is the A person, which is my new Steve Blonder chart. I don't want to be married to Gordon Ramsay, so I'm not going to use that. I'll use my wife, Susie Blonder. It'll name the chart for me, Steve and Susie. I create that, and now I have a Steve and Susie chart. What I can do is select this Steve and Susie chart here, and I can relocate Steve and Susie now to Paris. And let's see how this does for both of us. So I could just go in here and do Paris, look it up, and it should come back up, Paris, France, and then I could save that as a profile and say, well, you know what, I want to see not just that, I want to see my family if we were to move to Paris. So let's then select a group, and this could be, you know, any number of things. I'm going to take that Stephen off, that Gordon off. I'm going to click on Susie, Allison, our daughter, and me. And we can name it, you know, Blonder family is what I named the other one for. I want to create it in whole sign, and I can create the group. So there now I have a group of the family, and I think I might have created it under my wife, so I'll have to look up here because I made her the first one. And let's see if that is what happened. Yeah, Blonder family came under her because I made her first. So again, I can choose this, and I can relocate this family, the Blonder family, to Paris, or wherever I want to relocate it to. Look that up again, and there we go. We can save that profile. So now I've pretty much run through what we can do on the profile tab. One thing I should say is that it's easy to delete and start over if you want. So I can delete this group for charts, and it'll ask me if I want to do that. It kind of still may leave a few in here, but my name is gone. That particular chart is gone. Some of these children remain because they're attached to the other people. What happens also, I should mention, that is when I save these profiles, I'm using Google Drive, and there's a way to connect to the Google Drive if you were to click on the settings button up here, so that if you have an iPad or a desktop or a phone and you want to move profiles back and forth between the two, you save it to the Google Drive, and on each of those devices you can put the Google Drive and pick up those charts, the profiles. So that's something that's pretty cool to have. So that's it, I think, for the profile page. Moving on to the AstroMap tab, there's a few things going on here that we'll work through. Basically, the last chart that was worked on comes up as the default for the planetary data. In this case, it was the Blonder family group. I would just make sure I hit calculate to get the positions of the family group. It will tell us the what's direct, what's retrograde, what the asteroid positions are, what the North Node, South Node, part of Fortune, and part of Spirit positions are, as well as the cusps. And in this case, we're looking at whole signs, so basically only angles have the degrees. The rest of them start at the start of the sign. Now I could say, okay, well, I really want to look at say, Gordon Ramsay's chart. I can click on him, and then I can recalculate that, and it'll bring up his positions. So you want to just make sure whatever you're showing that you're calculating it again, and get that planetary data to start with. Then what you can do is look at the actual planet line meanings. And that came up a lot when I was doing some research on this. A lot of people didn't really understand what these planet lines are and what they mean. And here you can see, like in Ramsay's chart, it'll tell you, well, his sun is at 15 Scorpio. The sun has to do with vitality, identity, leadership. And then you get some Astrodynes scores, which say, well, his sun has got plus 4.2 harmony, which is very good. And his power is 58, which is pretty good. Pretty strong, actually. And it gives you a look, and it says, yes, it's harmonious, and he's got a good sun. You could click on this, and then it'll give you parts of the world where the sun would change its focus depending on where it is in the chart. So if his sun was in the midheaven, that would help his career. It would say, okay, those places in the world where your sun is at the midheaven is central US and Central America. So just as a quick shorthand to figure out where and how these positions might play out. If it went to the IC, which is the fourth house, it would say, okay, you're going to have a real good sense of belonging and security and deep roots. And to get that, he would probably have to go to South Asia, Southeast Asia. You go to the ascendant, and an ascendant line, he's going to be very confident. His presence is going to shine very well. Of course, he'd have to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to do that, but it's just telling you, where those lines are. If it's on the descendant, it's going to help him with his relationships, marriage, business partnerships, because his sun is harmonious. And those places are in Western Europe, North Atlantic, Azores, and all that. So that's not something we would really use that much, but it just gives us an idea of how it would play out at the different angles. So that's fun to know. And you can look at all the different planets in the chart and the asteroids to figure out how that looks. You can get a read on how harmonious these planets are and how powerful they are. But there's other ways to do that, which we'll look at in a little bit. Then what we want to see is the actual chart wheel. So here is his chart, and I can add aspects. I did his chart in Placidus, and if I want to see it large, I can click on the chart, and then I could get it in the window and see the planetary positions in the chart. I could also look at it. So right now it's in Placidus, so it shows up as quadrant. I could also put whole sign in, and it will start at the beginning of the signs, and it'll change the house position. So this is now Jupiter in the third house, where it was, I guess it was still in the third house. But anyway, you have that flexibility with the chart. I'll collapse this. And then looked at the chart wheel, and then we can look at the AstroCartoGraphy chart, our map, Astro Map, which is what the tab is titled. So this Astro Map is kind of unusual in that I have made it so easy to see different lines in the map without having to go through a whole lot of settings to do it. So right now it opens with the default of just ACG lines. And I could go in here and I say, okay, I want to go into the United States and I want to get much closer than that. Just move it over here with the mouse. And I can see in his chart, in Gordon Ramsay's chart, that he has Venus coming and Sun coming straight through this Dallas area and through Texas. So that says what's going on with those particular lines. And then he's got these other lines. There's Neptune on the midheaven through Tennessee and Missouri. He's got Mercury on the midheaven going through Florida up into Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So he's got a lot of stuff going on there. But I want to also see where his parens are, where the crossing lines are. And here's a major crossing line that he has across the north here, which is interesting because I'm going to look at his chart from Vegas later. But he has a Mars-Pluto crossing line here. And Vegas became very prominent for him as he opened his first restaurant there and became very famous. So I can look at the parens. If I want to just look at the parens, I could take the ACG lines off. And if I want to look at local space lines, I can take the parens off, or I can take the ACG lines off. And those local space lines come from his chart in the United Kingdom. So typically, if he was born in LA, they would all come out of LA for me. These are coming out of the United Kingdom. And those have influence as well. People want to see local space lines and geodetic lines. And that's where the entire zodiac is mapped around the world, starting in Greenwich. So Greenwich will have 0 Aries, and it'll move east and west, and it'll change by where it is on the globe for the full 360 degrees. And if you have a planet that's sitting there, that's also going to have influence. So he has Mars at the descendant at a geodetic line in Des Moines, for instance. And if I want to look at asteroids, he's got Ceres going through Denver and Cheyenne. Ceres is the prefix of cereal, so it has a lot to do with nourishment, nurturance, that kind of thing. It has Juno here, which has to do with relationships. So you can get all that. You can get the ACG lines. You can move in and out of the map, and you can see where these lines are today. You can hit progressed, and it shows you that those lines have moved. So now he's got the sun at the ascendant going through Oklahoma City. And you can move it forward, backward to any date you want. So you can see where those lines are going to go next year and thereafter. And what it's showing you is you're seeing what we call progressions in force. So you're just going to see the progressions of Sun through Mars, and then you're going to see the transits of Jupiter through Pluto. So the slow-moving planets, Jupiter through Pluto, you don't want to see in progressions because they don't move hardly at all, whereas the faster-moving planets you want to see in progressions. So it gives you that. Then the other thing that we have is we can look at these lines in Mundo. And let me get out of the, reset the progressions out of there. You can look at them in Mundo, or you can look at them in Zodiacal, using those two different methods. Traditionally, the astrocartography charts used in Mundo, I can't really get into a whole explanation of it, but it has to do with the actual rising and setting of the sun or the planets, whereas zodiacal has to do with how they are related to the ecliptic. The zodiacal mapping will be exactly the same as what your birth chart shows, whereas in Mundo will be a little bit different, especially with Pluto, since its orbit is so different than all the other planets. So if I switch to zodiacal, you can see that these planets changed. The lines changed. Now here it was kind of dramatic. That's because I'm in the progress. Let me move back over here to the natal, and let's go back in Mundo to zodiacal. And here I guess it's still a little bit dramatic for him. So we got to figure out which ones we want to use for him versus other people. I typically use zodiacal. I like that. Glyphs, you're seeing here the planets themselves, the glyphs, but you can change that and see the actual names of the planets if it's easier for you to read. If we want to see how close or far away we are from a particular line, say I want to move to Santa Fe, well, how close is that to Oklahoma? Let's see. I'm sorry, to the Venus line. And okay, what am I doing here? I hit measure. Oh, get back to the measurement tool. Here we go. And click part 2. Okay, there we go. So it's 420 miles away. So that's telling you it's still within influence. 700 miles is really the most we want to go, but that's still within influence of that particular line. So that's a nice tool to have. Plus, now we could also see it in full screen. I want to go back to that zodiacal. So you got Jupiter over there, you got in Mundo. Yeah, so Jupiter moved over there. I'm going to have to go back here and stop this. Okay, I'm going to go through these next tabs relatively quickly. There's a lot of AI interpretation to be read when you're in your trial. You can do that. I don't want to waste a lot of time here. I want to go through how to navigate the menus and the modules here. So moving over to the Stellar Profile tab, I can select a chart. Let's select Gordon Ramsay. Let's look at his natal chart. I can do a location analysis for where he was born. I click on the location analysis, and it's going to tell me basically a profile of all the planetary energies and what they were doing when he was born. It's going to tell us the best geographical directions he could go to for different areas of his life, which lines are challenging that he needs to approach mindfully, what the periods were at his birth latitude, the geodetic and local space influences, his natal promise. Basically, it's going to tell all of those types of things from a natal standpoint. I can then collapse that reading, and I could look at what these scores were for his planetary power and harmony uh, in those particular places. So the net score here on harmony is harmony minus discord, and it came up with a +4 and opposite on the discord piece. I can also look at the sign power and harmony. That was planet. You can look at sign power. Each sign has its own power and harmony as well. Houses too have their own power and harmony. I can look at the groupings and emphasis of his planets in the chart. You know, what is more outward focus? What is more inward focus? What is more career orientated versus home orientated? Where is he most comfortable in companionship, public life, private life? What is he focused on in his life? In this case, wealth and life, as opposed to psychism and association. The sign type, he has a lot of mutable signs. He's very adaptable, but he's also fixed in certain ways. And cardinal, he's a little limited. Doesn't like to take a lot of cardinal actions. The elements, you know, he's got a lot of water, a lot of earth. Fire is not as much, which kind of is hard to believe because of his fiery personality. Air is out there, and how is his balances between female qualities and male qualities? That's really looking at receptivity more than action. You can look at his aspects, and you can also show what the progressions are for all of those. Right now, there's no progressed aspects in orb. So you see what happens though when he relocates. All of these things change. And that's what's interesting about working with Astrodynes, is it does change the profile of your chart. I mean, you still have your natal chart operational, but the emphasis changes. So if I move him to Vegas, you can see it immediately. It's going to tell you that it's a positive mood. His ascendant is up considerably in power and in harmony. Saturn, way up in power and harmony, and his midheaven as well. The only challenges really are with Neptune, which kind of makes sense, as he's a television personality, and he has to really groom himself in that regard, and he has challenges there he has to work with. I can generate a location analysis now for Vegas and how it shifts his chart, and it'll tell you basically a integrated reading, a synthesis of everything that's changed moving into this particular place. It'll be a long reading. I won't take too much time looking there. Try to get into these other tabs without having to wait too long for this reading. Come on. It's telling you all about the ACG signs, the parens, everything that's been changed in the location, whether it's favorable or not. It gives you all of that information. You can collapse that reading, and you can look then at the comparison between natal power at his birthplace and relocation power at his new place, what the net power score is, you know, how much is it improved in power, how much is it improved in harmony and discord. And you could see Vegas really improved his harmony scores considerably, as well as his power scores in certain planetary combinations. You can look again at the signs and I'm sorry, here's the planetary power, and then I look at the planetary power when it comes to progressions and transits. That's what this is telling me, how it changes. So the sun natally is at 5884, but right now, if he was there and June 25th, 2026, it's at 81. So it's increased in its power considerably. And you can see that his power from a progressed standpoint is quite high, moving to that area, and it tells you what transits are operating there and what the aspects and parallels are. So the stellar profile will tell you all of that from a natal standpoint, but also what the progressions in force that I've talked about, and it'll do analysis also looking at the timing overlay of the progressions and the transits for that particular area. So you can play with that and see the different lenses. You can go to the comparison tab, and here you compare your own chart against a relocation chart. And I'm going to look at myself because I've got a bunch of relocation charts in here. I'll look here at Grapevine, Texas, and I will say, okay, I just want to compare these two. It'll calculate all the Astrodynes. It'll give me a synthesized reading of what the relocation looks like. I can click on that, and you can see all the you can see an overall verdict of whether it's good or bad or modest or powerful. It'll tell me all the different things here, but it's telling me basically from a natal standpoint, and I want to know from a progressed standpoint. So I'm going to click over here, progressions in force, and find out how does that change it. And it's going to give me the changes in the harmony and the discord, and it's the power and all that. It's going to tell me what areas I need to be cautious of. This is going to tell me all those things. I can look at the planet power and harmony comparisons between the two places, sign power, house power, and I can look then at these chart wheels and look at the relocation chart for the area. So I can click on here, and I've got a natal Aquarius rising, but here in Grapevine I have a Pisces rising, and it changes the positions of the planets. So I'll look at it in a whole sign manner, and that's pretty cool. I can go out of here and put the aspects back in again and see the whole sign view. It'll also tell me those groupings and emphasis and how all those things change, and it compares the two places. And you can see it's a more of a angular focus for me. I'm much more action-oriented here in Grapevine, cardinal signs that are really pushing me to be more successful. The house horizon is more balanced, the west and the east, so relationships and my internal focus are much more balanced. The house hemisphere is more emphasizing the above hemisphere, which is more outer directed, more career directed. Social houses is more balanced here. It's almost more of an equal pie chart between public, companion, and private. The house focus here is much more about life and association, wealth. I've been more concerned about making money here, which is pretty true, actually. The sign type, I talked about cardinal, and that's really equals angular, mutable equals cadent, and fixed is succedent signs. So that's pretty much the same there. The elements, I have a little less air because I have Aquarius rising in California, and I have Pisces rising here. So that changes the balance there. And I have more of a balance between the male and female receptivity and active parts of it. And again, you can do an interpretation here that compares each of these places. So you get a feel of what these things mean and how they act, and whether it's in the progressed state or in the natal state. So that gives you a lot of things. Now, what's also interesting that I can do here is I can compare two locations. So I have Grapevine, and I can add, say, Thousand Oaks, California, and I can calculate that. And that's going to give me the three places, and it's going to tell me for the different planets, which cities are favored. So Thousand Oaks is favored for my moon. Grapevine is favored for my Venus, and it'll do an analysis here for all of that, which is pretty cool. And then you can generate a comparative reading between each of these three places, and it'll give you an AI interpretation of what is impact of moving to one of the two places. The other thing we can do is I can add multiple cities to it. So I could go Stephen Blonder. I can pick, well, I want to see Grapevine. I want to see Thousand Oaks. I want to see Paris, France. I can add that in there. Add Paris. I can add London. I can add Berlin. I like Europe. I don't know why. I can add Santiago, Chile, maybe. I don't know. We'll see if it comes up. There's probably a lot of Santiagos in the world. And it looks like it added Chile. So here are these places I added to these other ones, and I could say, okay, compare the cities. Compare them natally, and tell me what it says. And it says here that Berlin is the best. It's got the most harmony and out of all of them. And I can then see what the scores are per planet and how that breaks out. So that's really cool. So then you could say, all right, well, I want to see Berlin and I want to see London because those are the highest score. I can go back and put just the 2 locations in here or 3 locations in here, and it'll give me the deeper AI interpretations of it that we saw with the other 2 charts. Best locations is kind of similar. I can pick a chart, go with my own. I can look at worldwide in general, or I could pick a particular geography, or I could pick 2 particular geography, 3 or 4. I can do whatever I want here, and it's going to find the top 50 for these other areas. I want overall harmony. Yes, I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in wealth and opportunity. Well, maybe I'm not interested in overall harmony. I'm really interested in relationships and wealth and opportunity. And I want it to score on the natal basis. I'll also look at progressions in force later on, but then I'll hit the best locations. It's going to tell me Austin, Texas is the top location for me. I live in Dallas, so or Grapevine, which is not that far away, which is kind of interesting because it has been good for me for wealth and opportunity and relationships. I can look here then and say, well, I want to see my relocation chart. It shows me the relocation chart here. I can close this up. It kind of puts, sometimes if I go to the ACG map, I can look at this ACG map and I can look at the full screen and it takes it to Austin. You can see my sun line runs right through there, and it runs really very close to where I live here. And that's why I've really found a lot of presence here and appearance with my job. Whereas before I had a Saturn line near me and I was hidden behind the scenes. Here it's a lot better. I can exit this full screen, go back to the best locations tab, and I can get an interpretation here for Austin. And it tells me why it's the most favorable. It talks about my Mercury in the 10th house amplifying my visibility. That was the word I wanted to use before. So my visibility and career advancement has been very good. Sun conjunct relocated midheaven and all that. And like I said, I can change all this around to look at different places and look at different themes and look at natal versus progressions in force. I can do all of that on the best locations tab. Here it scored 1,100 world cities and it ranked the first, and I can interpret it on demand. So that's a nice feature. The last feature for the personal subscription to the program is the forecast tab. Forecast tab is great for anyone trying to get a sense of, is this a good time to move? Is there going to be a better time to move? What's happening generally in my life? And it's really cool in that it looks at 5 different areas to focus on for forecast. It looks at the Hellenistic system of zodiacal releasing that Vedius Valens, an astrologer from over 2,000 years ago, developed. And it divides the life into nested periods ruled by signs of the zodiac. And when we're looking at the signs of the zodiac, we're also looking at the planets. And here we can factor in the Astrodynes, the power and the harmony and discord of those signs and planets. That gives us a deeper view of what zodiacal releasing can typically do. I can pick the type of zodiacal releasing. The 2 types I'm focused on here are a lot of fortune and a lot of spirit. A lot of fortune has to do with your body, health, material life. A lot of spirit with your career, actions, and calling. and the levels of the zodiacal releasing are based on moving the signs and planets from the part of fortune to the part of spirit. Could also do it from the part of Eros, which has to do with relationships. I haven't built that in yet. I may add it later, but most people are working with the law of fortune and the law of spirit. The other thing we're working with is annual perfections, which is another Hellenistic annual timing technique, which moves every year. You're moving from one sign to another, one house to another. So this particular year, I have a 10th house perfection in the sign of Scorpio. So those things are going to be highlighted in my other charts, my solar return, and things like that. So it's good to know that. Your outer planet transits, which most people look at all the time. Secondary progressions, which are important to see what's really going on internally in your life. Solar arc directions are similar in solar progressions in that the sun is moving a degree a year, but in solar arc directions, every planet is moving a degree a year, whereas in secondary progressions, you're looking at the ephemeris where every planet moves a day. In the ephemeris, it moves a year. So a moon will be on, say, Aries on the day you were born, but the next day it may be in Taurus. So you're looking at then the position for the next year with the moon in Taurus. So, and I can show you on the charts how that looks. Then what it can do, which is cool about this program, is give you an integrated forecast of all these systems playing together, which you don't really get anywhere else. And the AI is going to synthesize all of these different forecasts and tell you what the main themes are. And again, I'm not going to read all this because it gets pretty long. From the zodiacal releasing standpoint, I can look now at a combined lot reading of fortune and spirit, and it'll give me a sense of where it's going for both the lot of spirit and the lot of fortune. And then I can look at the major periods. I selected lot of fortune above, and I can say, well, Gordon's in a Scorpio period right now, a level 1. It doesn't change until the end of next year. It's a peak period for him, and that's you need to study a little bit about zodiacal releasing to understand the concepts of peak periods. But it'll give you a little bit of a forecast of what that means. He's in a 14-year major life cycle. It's major life because it's a peak period. It tells you about the peak period and how that works. You can look at his level 2, which goes faster and it's not as powerful, but he's in a Cancer level 2 period. And you can read a little interpretation of what that means for him. You go down to the level 3 period, which is Virgo for him, and he's in there from May until the end of this month. And again, get another interpretation. And finally, the level 4 period, which will take you to the end of this month. And then if he was to go into the Libra period, it would take you, let me get back up to where we were, the Libra period. It takes you then to the next period, in the 4th period. Yeah, that's why I clicked on Libra, to bring us into the next periods. We look at I mentioned the annual perfection for Gordon. He's in a 12th house perfection year, and it's House 12, Venus. So it's a Venus year for him as well. And it gives you information about that. And that also works with your solar return to highlight what may be going on there. Outer planet transits, we can see here, to show the aspects of what's going on. It'll come in after I do the interpretation. Should come in. For some reason, it's not coming in right now. Let me see what happened here. I'm going to have to stop this for a second. Okay, I'm back after a little glitch I had that I fixed in a few minutes. Basically, we were looking at the interpret transits, where we saw a AI interpretation come out on the transits for Gordon. And then I went to go look at the transit aspects. which I was having a problem with, but is fixed now. You could see the natal planet aspecting the transiting planet aspecting the natal planet, the type of aspect it is, whether it's harmonious or discordant, and what the orb is for those aspects. Same thing, you can get a secondary progression interpretation, and you can see the progressed aspects in relationship to the natal chart. And then we have solar arc directions, where every planet moves a degree a year, where with progressed planets, every day in the calendar is a different planetary placement. So one day in the calendar equals a year of time when you're looking at that Time Lord system. And then we have a unique ability to look at all these Time Lord systems or forecast systems together and apart. So I can look at a single wheel here. Maybe if I increase the size of this, we can see that this is a single wheel of his natal chart. I can look at a single wheel of his progress chart. I can see a single wheel solar arc and of transits. And I can move those positions year by month, whatever I want to do. And then I can look at it from a bi-wheel standpoint. I'll say, okay, well, I want to see the natal chart in the inner ring, which all of these are going to give you the natal chart in the inner ring. And this is the transits in the outer ring. And I can progress these transits by a year, a month, or whatever I want to do here. So I'll come back here. And I can do the same thing. I put the solar arc on the outside. I can move that along. Let's see how these change over time, and progressions, the same thing. Okay, so we can move them along. And then I can look at a tri-wheel. So I want to see the natal chart. I want to see the progressions and the transits here. So that's what I have here. I have the progressions in the middle wheel, and I have the transits in the outer wheel, and I can progress these also. I could even go to a quad chart. So I have the natal wheel, I have the progress wheel, I have the solar arc wheel, and I have the transits wheel, and I can move those through too. So a lot of flexibility on looking at how these transits work. It's a very unique portion of this program. The next three tabs or modules are optional for the astrologer version of the program. What I've shown you so far is included in the personal version. It has profiles, astromaps, stellar profile, comparison, best locations, and forecast. And the astrologer portion gives you healing, electional charts, and relationship charts. So let's look at the healing one first. This comes from a course that CZ Zane taught for the Brotherhood of Light called Stellar Healing. And this whole module is based on that. So I can look here at Gordon, and I could see, all right, well, Gordon's most challenged planets are Saturn, Moon, and Uranus. And we could see that he can be very emotional and very stern with his Saturn, and very changeable and volatile with his Uranus. And that's part of his brand, which, so, even though these things look challenged and look problematic in the chart, for him, it's become a brand. It's become what people expect from him. But if he wanted to change his brand or change his way of operating, we could point him towards this particular module and say, okay, these are the areas you're struggling with that are, disharmonious, have a lot of discord in relationship to your planets. And it'll begin building out a interpretation of what he can do. What are the antidote energies that he can build with intention and consistency? And a lot of this has to do with working with light, and particularly colored light. I worked with these types of energies when I was in a metaphysics group back in the 70s, and we were able to meditate and imagine these lights surrounding us, going to different parts of the body, and it was very, very effective. So in the case of Gordon, we would say, okay, you want to improve Saturn, we need to give you yellow, and they call it mellow yellow. So yes, Gordon definitely needs mellow yellow if he's going to become warmer and have more impersonal kindness. Same with his moon. He needs to channel his energy into more effective, positive things. Instead of just being very, very sensitive and reactive, he needs to be more directive with his energy, and he could do that with scarlet color light. Uranus, again, he could improve his volatility and his changeableness. Is that a word? With Jupiter energy, rich purple, which gives warmth and gratitude. And then Pluto, which he also has some challenges with from a discord standpoint. He could bring in moon energy, clear green, motherly, enfolding, gentle, sustaining, strictly feminine. And I put this module in because a lot of people really can't always move, but they do want to be able to improve their life. So if people can bring in practices like meditation and do healing with light, they can improve their life. And frankly, when we do move, we still bring our natal chart with us. So we still have challenges, even though they may be improved, they're still there. And we still need to work on ourselves regardless. No move is going to be perfect. No move is going to make everything fine. We'll just change emphasis in certain areas, and it may be more productive, less productive, but we still need to do the work on ourselves. Moving on to the next one is electional charts, and these type of charts are called charts of the moment. They're about picking the most auspicious times to do certain things. Like in this case, we're talking about career or business launch, a marriage, legal contracts, investments, surgery, relocation, creative project, spiritual practice. So, if I wanted to say, okay, I'll look at myself for when I want to do a relocation, say. So I want to say, okay, well, my time period, you want to get it within a couple of months because it's just too much calculations to do. So I'll say, well, I want to look at July 1st, 2026 to, oops, it's supposed to be 2026. Did that come out? Nope. Come on, fix that. Okay. And I want to go forward to say September 15th, 2026. Okay. I live in Grapevine, so I want to look at it from this perspective. I also want to bring my natal chart in to see how the particular chart of the moment in these dates will match up with my natal chart. I want to use whole sign, and I'm going to scan for the best moments for this relocation or travel. And it's going to give it to me in an order of score. And these are harmony scores from Astrodynes. And that's all fine, and I like that. But I also have traditional scores, which has to do with rules that traditional astrology has that Astrodynes don't. And I personally like to rely more on my traditional rules than my Astrodyne rules in terms of picking a particular date, because Astrodynes miss things like retrogrades and potentially ruling planets in a much better aspect than it might be found with other planets and aspects. To give you an example here, I didn't want to do that. I want to click to show what the best traditional scores are for myself and the best scores. So if I was to relocate, it's saying, well, August 16th is the best time and day for you to relocate. And that may or may not be feasible, these particular times. I may have to look at something, another time, like this one, 1240. Now, as far as, relocating, I can set the intention at 6 a.m. on that day and actually begin the relocation process. So it's really not that far out of the art of possibility here that I could use this particular date and time. So I can split on that, click on that, and then get a reading on it and look at here from a traditional assessment using Hellenistic rules. I can see that the ascendant ruler, the sun, is pretty strong, and it's dignified. It's angular, and that's good. Venus is the insect benefic. It's harmonious, and it's in house 3, which has to do with movement. And Saturn is cadent, which you want with a malefic. You don't want it powerful. And the moon is moderate. It's waxing, which is good. You would like waxing as opposed to waning. It's gaining light as opposed to losing light. And you have the Mars, which is in the insect malefic, less harmful, and it's cadent, so it's not putting a lot of malefic energy on there. Okay, so you can see the chart, and you can see the Sun ruling Leo, and it's in the first house with Mercury, with Jupiter. All of this very much having to do with travel and relocation. And you have also the third house, Moon and Venus. So that is a very, very good view. And you get the aspects here, and then we can interpret this moment for the election and see what it tells us. It says it's a moderately strong foundation with notable strengths tempered by significant tensions. The harmonic score of 30103 is solid for relocation purpose, anchored by a dignified Venus and powerful harmonious Mercury and Jupiter in the first house, what we were talking about. Then you have the highest power planets and the angular powerhouses. And then we have the traditional indicators telling us that the ascendant and the chart ruler are strong, which is what we want, insect benefic in a good place in the chart. So it's telling us all these things and giving us what the key aspects are, the natal residence, how it matches up with my own chart. And then it says an overall fit. This is moderately resonant election with strong intellectual identity alignment, but emotional and volatile tension. Stephen's natal Saturn placement suggests he works best with clarity, structure, and measured pace. Qualities of selectional Mercury ascendant conjunction in Saturn trines honor, and even as Mars squares demand humility and flexibility. So it's a moderately resonant election with my chart. And then the recommendation is a qualified approval for travel relocation at this date and time. And it goes to the strengths and the weaknesses and tells you that. And then you could ask it, well, give me other windows, give me other suggested windows that you think might be good for me. And they say this particular chart, this date is decisively superior to all candidates. And it tells you why and what the gap is with the other alternatives. It says recommendation, use the current chart. It combines the strongest quantitative harmony with traditional endorsement of moon, dignity, and waxing phase. No meaningful improvement exists in the window. So that's what we can do with this electional chart. Finally, we look at relationship charts. And this is another area of astrology that I can use these same relationship charts to look at relocations for the relationship, for the family, and I can look at it from in this case, from a romantic standpoint, or a friendship standpoint, or a business standpoint, in terms of the relationship aspects and interpretations here. I want it from a romance standpoint. Since this is my wife. This is a marriage here. So we can look here and look at what the Astrodynes say about our compatibility. And this is actually what it's telling us here. That's what's coming here. And it tells us really the different planets and whether they're considered a mixed energy or both discordant, or they're both, harmonious. This is just telling us from that Astrodyne perspective how these planets are operating in each of the charts. I can also look here at the synastry, which is basically how do each of the planets look against the other planets in the other chart. And again, we have some mixed aspects, we have some discordant aspects, we have some harmonious aspects. And it gives us, the quantitative measures of these things so that we can get a view of that. And I can look at synastry in terms of, in this case, my midheaven, which is trine my wife's midheaven. It's also parallel, and it's going to be a really good harmonious aspect because trines and sextiles are harmonious, squares and oppositions are not. So this gives us what is happening there. Then we have the house overlays, which is my planet and which of her houses, her planet, and which of my houses, and how all that affects us. So then all of that factors into the relationship reading, which I'm choosing romance here to look at. And it's going to start building out this this interpretation here. I'm going to wait till we get to the bottom line here, but it basically drills down to each of the areas of a relationship. You know, emotional and romantic chemistry, attraction and passion, long-term compatibility, the Davison chart, which is the chart of the moment. It's a midpoint chart. My wife's birthday is in 1954. I'm 1956, so it found the midpoint date between them. Still in Los Angeles area because we're both from that particular area. If I was from New York and she was from LA, it might show up somewhere near Chicago, as middle of the country, something like that. So basically, it's saying that Stephen and Susie are long-term compatible partners, not soulmate lovers. I don't know why they say that. We've been married 40 years, but I'll take it as for what it says right here. The partnership thrives on shared purpose, mutual growth, and intellectual affinity, not on an effortless chemistry or sexual synchronicity. Stephen's reserved emotional and erotic nature pairs with Susie's natural warmth, creating a dynamic where she gradually teaches him to soften and receive. In return, his steadiness and Jupiter-supported optimism anchor her. So it gives key recommendations: prioritize communication about needs, especially sexual and emotional. Use Mercury-Venus harmony to intellectualize feelings if vulnerable discussion is difficult. Cultivate shared goals and public social projects. The midheaven harmony suggests they shine together in collaborative endeavors. Expect periodic negotiation of intimacy and commitment. Saturn demands conscious renewal. This is a partnership that deepens with time and intention, not a romance that ignites and sustains on passion alone. For long-term stability and mutual respect, the signs are generally favorable. So, you know, I'm kind of skeptical about what so-called soulmate relationships as well. So I'm not going to argue the point here because every relationship has an evolutionary quality to it. You need to grow. It needs to learn. People need to learn things, and you know, I think people feel soulmate relationships are like almost perfect, and that's not the case with any of these things. So that's looking at the Stellar Moves program. There's a user guide here you can click into and look at all the things that I may have missed in this demo or tutorial, whatever you want to call it. You can go ahead and subscribe or sorry, that's the wrong screen there. You can subscribe on the stellarmoves.net website. You can do a free trial. It's a 7-day free trial, and you can try it out. You've got the purchase options here. It's either $5.99 a month for the personal product that we have, or $12.99 a month for the astrology product, which is the stellar healing, relationship analysis, and electional astrology put together on that. So with that, I'm going to end this presentation. Feel free to email me. It's Stephen@stellarmoves.net if there are things that you think would add to the program, or if you're having any problems with it, let me know. I fix everything that I can get my hands on that I know is a problem. So let me know. Stephen@stellarmoves.net. Thank you for watching.